Hey comp lovers, I'm Paul Kerwin. I'm a VFX compositor. I just wanted to spend a few minutes talking about a couple of shots I've picked out of The Expanse. Um, so this is future New York. I believe the show is set about 30 years in the future. I'd have to check that. So I'm just rock and rolling these. So we're just seeing them bounce backwards and forwards inside Nuke. Um, so one of the first things that struck me about these kind of work is that um, these shots aren't very busy. The majority of times that you see work which is, future cities, it's like you just get being smashed in the face with stuff. There's detail, detail, detail everywhere. There's flying cars and there's crowds of people and there's stuff, and every pixel is filled with things, right? And and the Expanse really isn't like that. When they show anything to do with Earth, they tend to be using these sorts of shots. I mean, this shot is much busier in terms of just the amount of detail you can see in the city, but it's hard to get away from that if you're using an aerial shot of New York looking down. Um, but there's not a lot of stuff that's flying that's kind of drawing your attention, right? These shots are quite languid almost, just in terms of the camera and in terms of the framings. You know, they don't have a really busy sky. They don't have a shitload of clouds and things that are distracting you. It's really about the buildings, and there's a sense of calm there. And it took me a little while to kind of clue on to what I think they're doing, which is they're using the visual effects or the art direction really to bring across the feeling of, the wider context of the show. So the show is about the former colonies of Earth struggling against Earth, essentially. So you've got Earth as a power center, and then you've got Mars, and then the outer planets, which is, bodies in the asteroid belt and moons of Saturn and Jupiter. And they're all, there's this broad political struggle that's the backdrop for the show. And I think that whenever you see shots of Earth, whether they're exteriors or interiors, they always have this sense of calm to them. The interiors are very broad. It's very modern. You don't see a lot of crowd shots. It all seems to be very calm. Whereas when you see the shots of the outer planets and Mars, they're all much busier. They're all much more enclosed. There's steam and smoke, and there's dirty, and there's crowds. And it took me a while to figure it out, but I think that's an intentional thing, because it brings across the idea that the outer planets and Mars are in much more of a struggle for survival, right? Whereas Earth isn't, okay? So it all feeds into the idea that Earth is the power center, right? And the outer planets and the Martians are the underdogs, right? So it's just a really interesting way that they're using art direction, both exterior, interiors. What I'm going to do is pick a couple of interior shots of both Earth and then the Earth opponents, if you like, and we'll talk about those as another example. But again, I really like the show, and I think that's part of it is because they're kind of playing against type. Normally with these sort of city shots, you'll just have so much detail that it's almost going to make your head explode. And it's really nice to actually see stuff that is almost languid in that sense, where you've really got the audience has time to actually drink it in, and the other thing about the shots is they're not short. Visual effects shots are, the longer they get, the more expensive they tend to get. And so there's always a stage you go through in a production where someone comes in and they start cutting stuff. They cut shots and they cut shots shorter because it saves the production money. And when you see these shots in the Expanse, I never really get that sense that I'm like, oh, dude, I could have really had, an extra second or an extra 2 seconds of that shot in order just to let my mind settle on this, So it's one of the things that I like about it is they're really playing against type. Well, not playing against type, but they're not following the standard formula of science fiction in this day and age in the way that they're treating their subject, So I think it's really nice to see. So I'll pick some interior shots, and we'll probably talk about them next time, or I might jump onto something else. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. So Yeah, thanks for listening. My name is Paul Kerwin. I love compositing, and I'll see you next time.